What's going on, guys? Tyler here, and welcome back to another Elementor video. In today's video, we're using Elementor to build out an entire webinar structure that includes the webinar registration page, the thank you page, and the actual webinar room. So you're not going to want to miss today's video. If you guys are new to the channel, welcome. I really appreciate you stopping by. Be sure and smash that nice red looking subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you can be notified of upcoming videos just like this one. Now, I do have a previous version of how to build out this webinar structure using Elementor. It is a long, in-depth tutorial, so if you're interested in that or maybe have questions after this short overview today, you can definitely check that out. You can click on, this is what the cover of that YouTube video looks like. I will link a card up top, so go ahead and just click on that and head over there. But for today's video, I'm excited because we're gonna go quickly through how to build out a webinar structure so you can have a webinar up and running on your site in no time. And guys, I always recommend Elementor Pro, so if you haven't upgraded yet, check out that link down below in the description. See what kind of price you can get for it, because it really has all of the features that we're gonna need, as well as all of these awesome additional features that you can add to your website and make your website fully customizable. I always recommend it. Super great plugin, and the premium version is not that much. So check out Elementor Pro, check out that link down below in the description, and see what kind of price you can get for it today. All right, guys, with no further ado, let's go ahead and jump into my computer and get started. Now, I do want to show you this. This is actually a chart that I've created, and it allows us to kind of have an overview of how we're going to create this entire process. Now, I know this chart has a lot of information on it, but don't be overwhelmed. It is very simple, and all we're going to need to do is essentially create 3 different pages on our website. First will be the webinar registration page, then we will have the thank you page, and then we will have the actual webinar room. And I've even gone ahead and set up some emails here so you can see how you would actually create this process using your email service provider, or even if you're just manually sending out emails, how you would want to go ahead and set these up. Alright, guys, so the first thing we need to do is go ahead and create the webinar registration page. And I've gone ahead and listed some of the requirements that I think are necessary for this webinar registration page. Alright, now the first requirement is this video or text. Now right here, basically we're creating a piece of content that its primary objective is to get your visitors to register for your webinar. I've gone ahead and added both a video and a text to my example page, but this is up to you however you would like to create this content, but make sure the primary focus is to get your visitors to register for your webinar. Now the second requirement here is going to be a form. We need somewhere where they can actually put in their information, and we need something to happen with that information. So let's go ahead and just take a look at my example page here. This is my example registration page. It doesn't look very fancy, but I want to just go ahead and show you guys how to put in the structure of the webinar, and then you guys can take the time to actually stylize this entire website out, how you would like your register page to look, how you would like your thank you page to look, and also your webinar room page. This is totally up to you. A lot of people like to add testimonies or results that they've seen on their webinar registration page. You can do whatever you would like, but for this example, the 2 requirements that we're going to implement on our page today are this video and or piece of text and a form. All right, now to meet those requirements, I've gone ahead and added a video here. If you would like to autoplay it, you certainly can. Just check and make sure it's working on mobile as well. I've gone ahead and added some text here, and you don't see my form here. What I've gone ahead and done is actually a pretty cool little trick that you can do with Elementor Pro. Now to make this cool little trick happen, we're gonna go to our WordPress dashboard, and under Elementor, we're gonna go over to the templates menu and click on pop-ups. Once we have our pop-ups menu here, we can go ahead and click up top and hit add new. Now it will most likely come up with a library of templates that you can choose from. I went ahead and just exited that window and went ahead and just designed my own template. Now all I did here was add a heading right here and then add a form right here. Now let's go ahead and just set this form up before we leave this pop-up page. And basically what we're going to do is go ahead and edit it. I'm just going to collect a name and email address, but if you want to collect other information, you certainly can. Like I said, guys, take all of the time that you need to go ahead and stylize this, make it look really nice and fit in well with your website. But for this video's sake, we're focused on the structure. So let's go over here to the left and click Actions after Submit. Now what we need to happen is we need this to redirect. So go ahead and just hit this little plus and type in or click on redirect there, and we can have a redirect happen after this form is submitted. The other optional step here is you can also collect a submission right here, and it will actually be logged in your backend of WordPress. Or you can set up, if you have an email service provider, you can set up some kind of auto campaign, such as if you're using MailChimp or ActiveCampaign, GetResponse. I personally use GetResponse, but you can set up an auto email to go out once they're registered, and I'll talk a little bit about that auto email in just 1 second. Now next we're going to go ahead and actually set up the redirect. So right below the actions after submit, now that we've added the redirect here, we now have a new menu for redirect, and I'm going to go ahead and paste in the link to my thank you page. Now this is very important, and you may have not set up your thank you page at this point. So you can come back and do this after you set up your thank you page, or just put the URL that you intend to use. But make sure this is working. This is what we're doing right here, this form redirect. We need the form to redirect after it is submitted from the register page over to the thank you page. All right, once our form is all set up, and again, you can add your email service provider if you would like, but for the time being, we're just gonna leave it just like that. We'll go ahead and hit update or publish, depending on if this is the first time that you've set this up or not. And then down here, we don't even need to set up any display conditions. We'll just hit save and close. All right, terrific. We're back here on our webinar registration page, and what we need to do is go ahead and set up the link for this button. Now what we're going to do is click on edit for this button. We'll go over here to the link under content, and we'll click dynamic tags. We want to scroll down until we find the actions and we find pop-up. Go ahead and click that, and then when you click pop-up, there's a little tiny wrench. I don't know if you can see it, but this little tiny wrench over here on the left, we'll click on that, and that will be the pop-up settings. We want the action to open pop-up, and we want the pop-up, we're going to go ahead and type in the name that we set for our pop-up. Perfect. And go ahead and select that, and we are all set now. Let's go ahead and update the page and take a look. All right, congratulations guys, we are done with the webinar registration page. If we take a look here, we can see that we now have the video and text on the page, and we also have this form. And to get to the form, all they have to do is click this button, and boom, we get this pop-up with the form and everything that they need to fill out to register for the webinar. All right, and before we move on, I do just quickly want to mention this first email that I would recommend sending out. Now, this is sometimes considered a welcome email when someone joins your list or something like that, but you can send this out with your email service provider automatically very easily. And what you're going to want to include in this email is basically just a thank you for registering for the webinar, and you'll want to include the link to your thank you page. Now, if you haven't created your thank you page, again, we're gonna wanna grab that URL when we're done creating it and throw it in this email. But basically, you're gonna say, thank you for joining the webinar. We look forward to having you on. And here is a link when you're ready to get set up and get in the waiting room for the webinar. Now let's talk a little bit about this thank you page. This thank you page is actually going to act a little bit like a waiting room. Not only a thank you for registering for the webinar, but also a sit here and sit tight until the webinar begins, and then we'll redirect you over to the webinar room. Now some of the requirements for this thank you page are a video or text, again, any type of content. And again, I would take some time and really thank these people for actually taking time out of their day to register for your webinar, to be pitched on your sales pitch, and take time to learn more about your content. So make it authentic. This is really important. You want to build good good relationships with these visitors. Let's go ahead and take a look at my thank you page here. I've gone ahead and just said I will put all of my content into a video, and I've gone ahead and placed that video there. Now what we need to do is also add a countdown timer. Now right here we have this countdown as the requirements. We're going to go ahead and just simply go to our elements and search for the element that is called countdown. We can just simply drag it right in, and it will drop in a timer that looks just like this, that is counting down to a specific date and time. Now we have two options for this countdown. We have a due date, or we have an evergreen timer. For the sake of this tutorial, we're going to be using the due date. This is going to count down to a specific date and time when you're going to run your webinar. Now we can go ahead and set this date and time right over here. If we want to go ahead and select a date in the future, we'll go ahead and set that up, and then we'll set a time of when we would actually like to run our webinar. Now again guys, take your time right here, stylize this countdown however you would like so it really fits in well with your webinar structure and with your website overall, and take your time. There's stylization options right here as well as over here on the style tab. Now what's important to us in this video is the actions after expire. What we need to happen is we need some kind of action to happen when this countdown timer reaches 0. So that action right here that we're going to use is redirect. We have a few different options. Redirect, we can actually hide the timer, or we can show a message. But for right now, we're just going to go ahead and set up a redirect. Now again guys, you're going to need to reference a URL that maybe you haven't even created yet, but for the sake of this tutorial, go ahead and create that next page, or set up a URL that you're going to designate for that next page, and then paste it in right here. And that's pretty much it for the thank you page, guys. It's very straightforward, very simple. We just need some piece of content and then our countdown timer, which is set up to redirect when it reaches 0. And you can see right here, that is going to be our move to the next page, the webinar room. And guys, if you remember when we actually sent out this first email, we were sending them a link to this page. What happens is if your visitor joins the page after the timer has reached 0, they will come directly to this page, and then immediately using that countdown redirect, immediately be redirected over to the webinar room, which is perfect for what we need, because we can't really tell if this person, when they click on the link in their email, if they're going to join maybe 5 minutes before the webinar, maybe 5 days before the webinar, or maybe 30 minutes after the webinar started. So we really don't know when they're going to join. So we use this thank you page as a filter to know when to redirect them over to the webinar room. Alright guys, and once our countdown redirects, we're over in the webinar room, and this brings us to our last and final page. Alright guys, now for the requirements for the webinar room page, there are 2 requirements that I have listed here: the video and the blessed and oh so important buy button. Now for the first requirement, the video requirement, I do want to mention there are a ton of different services that you could use for this video. I've been in webinars where they use just a standard video that they uploaded to their website, and they just autoplay it as soon as someone joins the page. I've been in webinars where they use a standard YouTube video that they just have the settings set to autoplay as soon as you join the page. That could totally work, and a lot of people do that. If you're really going for authenticity and you want them to feel that this is a live webinar, and you want them to know, you want to be transparent. If it is a recorded video, you should definitely let them know that. But if it is a live webinar, you can use YouTube just to create a live stream and go ahead and embed that right onto your website. Again, there's other services such as Twitch. Maybe you could even set up a Zoom, like a launch button from this webinar room. There's so many different options that you could use here. I'm not going to cover all of them, but those are just a few that I've seen done. Now, something that you may want to consider when you're choosing a video service provider is that there may or may not be comments that you can embed onto your website. So if you're redirecting them over to a Zoom call, then everything is moved over to Zoom, and you can go ahead and manage comments there and do everything over there. If you're going through maybe a uploaded video that you just uploaded to your website, then you're going to have to figure out some kind of commenting system, how you can handle comments, or just not allow comments at all during the webinar. All right, guys, let's talk about the buy button. And this isn't always necessarily a purchase, like a monetary transaction, but it certainly, and in most cases, probably will be. So I want to talk about everything that you've done so far, everything that you've created, including going ahead and streaming maybe, a 30 or 45-minute webinar has now come to this point where they are either going to click the buy button or not. So after your elaborate sales pitch on your product through your webinar, you want them to go ahead and actually convert and become a paying customer. And that's why we have the buy button pop up at a certain point in the webinar. All right, and we'll talk about why we want this buy button to pop up at a later time in just a second. But right here, I want to show you what our webinar room looks like. Up here, I've added this progress bar right here. You can see the streaming live right up here. And we have this progress bar that kind of gives it like that live feel. Now, for the sake of this tutorial, I've just added this video placeholder right here, but you certainly could add a live stream. Like I said, even if you're using YouTube, you'll just embed it just the same way that you would do here. You'll go over here to edit and paste in your live stream link right there. And lastly, we have this purchase button right here. Now, this is really important. This is, everything comes to this, that they click on this and make the purchase. All right, guys, now the reason we want this buy button to pop up later in the webinar is because we don't want them to just come to the page, look at the webinar for 30 seconds, and then click on this button and make a decision based on price. We want them to take the time to actually watch our webinar, see what our awesome offer is, what our awesome product is, why they need this product, that we want to really sell them on whatever they're here to be sold on. And then at that point, they can go ahead and take a look at the price. But once they're sold, it will be a much easier process to convert them, as opposed to them just seeing this button, checking out the price without watching any of the webinar and then leaving. All right, guys, so to do that, we're going to go to this button right here. We'll go to edit. We'll go ahead and go over to the advanced tab and go to motion effects right here. And we'll go into an entrance animation. I've set mine to bounce in. And then we can go ahead and set the animation duration. This is basically how quickly the animation happens. I leave mine at normal, but we can set a animation delay, and this is in milliseconds. So for every 1,000 that you put in here, it is equal to 1 second. So just so you guys understand the math, for every 60,000 that you put in here, it is 1 minute. So if you guys want this button to pop up 10 minutes into the webinar, you will need to go ahead and times 60,000, which is equal to 1 minute, by 10 minutes, and that equals 600,000. So we'll put in a value of 600,000 here. Perfect. And that will pop up 10 minutes into the webinar. And again, guys, the math is very simple on this. We're going to go ahead and put in 60,000 because that equals 1 minute in milliseconds, and we'll times it by the amount of minutes that we want before this button pops up. So if we want this button to pop up 30 minutes into our webinar, we'll put in 30 right here and hit equals, and there we have it, 1,800,000. We'll go ahead and take that amount and put it in right here. For the sake of this tutorial, I'm just going to put in 3,000. That will be 3 seconds, just so I can actually show you how this effect works. And once we're done with that, guys, we are basically wrapping up this whole process. Now let me show you what this actually looks like, because it looks really nice on this webinar room page. I'm going to go ahead and refresh here, and you can see that progress bar fills up, the video's there, and then after 3 seconds, my purchase button pops in. Guys, we are doing awesome. Now I do want to show you just one last email that I might potentially send out if I did not have a lot of people come and view my webinar. It's basically a sorry we missed you on the webinar email, or a watch the replay of this webinar. Now basically what it is we're going to use our email service provider to find a list of people within our registrants list right here of people that did not click on the link and actually go to the webinar. And what you can do is go ahead and compose an email basically saying, hey, we noticed that you didn't check out the webinar, or we noticed that you didn't click on the link. We just wanted to let you know that for a limited time, we're offering the replay right here, and we're sorry we missed you, but you can join us right here for the replay at any time for the next 7 days, or whatever time frame you would like to set this up for. And then you're gonna send them directly over to the webinar room page, which is this one right over here here on the right, which we're currently on. The sun out my window has completely set, guys. It is now nighttime, but we have totally, completely created a webinar system. How awesome is that? And we're just using Elementor right here, and again, whatever video and email service providers that you choose to go with. Congratulations, guys, you have your webinar system totally set up. And again, if you have any questions, you can drop a comment down below. There is a chance that maybe I or someone here in the community can help you with that question. And again, I always recommend that you check out that other video. This is what the thumbnail looks like right over here. If you guys need more information, it was a much longer tutorial, much more in depth, and I go over a lot more on the whole webinar creation side as well as the webinar system side. And with no further ado, guys, thank you so much for watching today's video. If you haven't yet, be sure and smash that like button. I would really appreciate it. And if you're new to the channel, I appreciate you watching today's video. I do post a lot of content similar to this, so hit that nice red looking subscribe button and join the family and be notified of upcoming videos just like this one. And guys, Elementor Pro, always a great recommendation. I really truly believe it is a fantastic plugin and even like one of the very best page builders for the price. So I highly recommend you check out that link down below in the description and see what kind of price you can get for it. It really, like I said, does some awesome things. So thank you guys so much. I will catch you guys in the next video and take care.